Hello and welcome back. As promised, I have the reason why I think that I'm autistic or ADHD. I have my complete history and my traits that I have written out actually for my assessment that I'm getting very soon. So I'm kind of gonna use this to read and explain because it's easier for me. I already have it written out. It's easier for me than like going back and forth and remembering things and making this video a complete um, mess in that way. So I'm probably just gonna read this out. Sorry, my glasses are all broken. They're just from Walmart. I need to go get my eyes checked too. Maybe I'll set up that appointment soon. Okay, so anyway, this video is going to be the reason why, my detailed history since I was a kid, and yeah, all the traits and um oh, I laid it out in a very smart way before. I mean, I should just get right into it, right? But I mapped out like a full detailed report on um my sensory issues and each category of DSM-5, like how they fit. Um, oh, actually, you know what? I didn't put section A in here, but that's all throughout my history. So, I mean, you'll see. You'll see. I mean, okay. This is a bit vulnerable for me. I'm not sure how I feel about this, but anyway, okay. So, as a very young child, I struggled with what I was told was extreme shyness. Um, but to me, like it felt very debilitating and crippling. I didn't have the words to explain it at the time, but like for me personally, um, and this was from the time that I can remember. So from 3 or 4 on, like if anyone other than my parents, like I was pretty quiet with them too. I mean, I would talk, I would do stuff, but if anyone other than my parents or my siblings were around, and I think at the time it started, they were like babies when I can remember this. I was like 3 or 4, and I do have a very very good memory of my childhood, which I know isn't always usual, but I remember things really specifically and very vividly. Um, so yeah, when other people were around, it was like crippling. I would not talk. I could barely move. Um, I would hide my face with my hands, or I would just try to hide in general, hide behind my parents. It was it was as if I was locked in and frozen, and I couldn't talk to other people, like at all whatsoever. Um, the better I got to know people, the easier it was. But like when I saw that, because my family, they're a bit weird in general. Anyway, I could say a lot about my dad. He's not around anymore, but he was very unusual. My parents didn't have a lot of friends or anything either, so for me it was like kind of normal to not be around people too. Um, but even if we saw like their family friends, um, and it had been a while, like I would have the same reaction all over again, because it's hard. And even when I could, like when I did warm up, I still wouldn't really talk. Like I would have very short responses. It was hard for me to say please or thank you, like at all, even though I knew this was like a good thing that people expected. And I was, my parents raised me right. They're like, if someone asks you a question, um, like if you want a drink or, a glass of water or apple juice, you say yes, please. And when they give it to you, it's thank you. But for me, it was, even though I was expected it, it was really hard to say those things. Even though I knew it was a good thing, it was really hard. Even if I wanted to, like I had the desire to, I could not physically do it, which I don't know if that makes sense to anyone or anyone can relate to that, but I couldn't speak to anyone. And yeah, the more I got to know people, the easier it was. The older I got, the more we were around other people, the easier um it got to like come out of that and like say please and thank you. But it was still a struggle. It was still very much a struggle. Um I would have to like force myself, um because I knew other people didn't do that. They just talked to each other. And I had to just like get over whatever this was and force myself and push myself. Um, Also, sudden loud noises would like freak me out and make me cry. They would really startle me, and I would cry and try to hide. This one time, my mom, I remember this very clearly. My mom put on one of those green, like clay face masks, like, for skin, um, good for your skin. And I didn't see her do that. She just came into the room and I saw this green face and I was terrified. And I started crying and trying to hide and hyperventilating. And even though she said like it's me, it was her voice. Like to me, it wasn't her. Like I could not recognize her, even though I heard her voice, even though it was like her eyes. Like it was just green on the face. Like to me, that was a big deal. I couldn't recognize her. It was really, really hard. Um, and it took her washing that off her face and showing me that it was her to like stop extremely freaking out. But it still took me, I remember it took me a while to like calm back down from that because it was so like crazy to me. Um, like I don't know how to explain it, but I thought there was a weird stranger monster that either took over my mom or something. I don't know. I could not recognize her. I did not think it was her. So I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but I couldn't recognize her face. Um, that was like one of the interesting things. Um, Also, there was one time. See, I really, you'll see this throughout this whole entire thing. I'm very gullible. I take people, at their word. I especially believed my parents and stuff like that. So there was one time when I was like really upset. I don't remember what caused it, but I remember I was like hyperventilating and crying and like wailing, right? Having a full blown meltdown. And my mom, it's really weird. She was saying there's this monster that eats little girls that cry, and I think he can hear you. I can hear him coming. Do you hear him? And like in my mind, I have a really good imagination, and I could hear the big booming footsteps of this like monster coming to eat girls who cried. And so like I stopped wailing immediately, and I kind of like hid my face, and I know I was crying silent tears, and I was like terrified that he could still like, either smell me or hear me or whatever. Of course, it was a lie to just try to get me to like not be wailing anymore, but that was that was crazy. That was a really crazy thing. And I'm noticing now that we're nearly 10 minutes in already. So this might be like a several part series because this is just my childhood, like an early development part of it, and we're already 10 minutes in. So I might like make them into parts to make it easier for people. Anyway, I was homeschooled until I was 5 years old, and then I was sent directly to first grade. But the thing is, like, when I went into first grade, that gave me a lot of anxiety and everything. I couldn't talk to anyone still, so I was like really quiet. I wouldn't answer their questions. I was just crying. And like I knew the answers. One of the things was we had a sheet and we had to read the word and color this. It was a little monster actually, which is odd, that coincidence. But anyway, it was a little monster, and they had the color word under each one. You're supposed to color each one. But black and blue both have B's in the beginning of it, and I was crying, so my eyes were blurry. And I remember mixing those two up and being like really frustrated and angry with myself because like I had realized the mistake I made, and I tried to like scratch the crayon off the paper and like outline the blue one, which I colored black. Um, I tried to like recolor recolor it and correct it, and I didn't think I was doing a good job. And probably about halfway through that, it might not even been halfway through that day. It might have been less. But the teacher finally got sick of me like crying and not answering any questions and not participating. Even though I was trying to be really quiet about my struggle, I couldn't help but cry. She walked me over to the principal's office and explained what was going on, and said that I was acting like a baby and that I need to go to kindergarten. And I didn't, I wasn't participating in class. I didn't know anything, and I couldn't answer the questions. And so they walked me over to kindergarten, and I was put in kindergarten, and um, instead of first grade, where I actually was testing and knew everything, right? But okay, I still couldn't really even talk to people. I still got upset. I still had like anxiety of being away from my mom and being away like around all these new kids and like and teachers and everything, and that was really difficult for me. So um it was like I still didn't really participate in class, not really. Like when they said Pledge of Allegiance or anything, I would like mouth the words, but I wouldn't say it. Like I did the actions and I would mouth the words. And like if I was put on the spot and asked a question, my voice would be so small and tiny. They were constantly asking me to speak up. I remember that. And it was really embarrassing, but I got in at least two accidents where I had wet myself because I was unable to ask to use the restroom. Like that's how far I just wouldn't talk to people. Um, so yeah, that happened um, at least two times, maybe more than that, but I can recall two very vividly in my mind of it happening. And um, yeah, it was just really hard. There were two kids that wanted to play with me. I remember that. Um, and one of them was a boy and one of them was a girl. And one of the first days that I was in kindergarten, I think it might have been the first week or the second week, um, they were like pulling tug of war on my arms, like, I'm going to play with her. No, I'm going to play with her. Like I was this toy or something. It was really weird. Um, that's a very vivid memory of mine. But I think I actually ended up playing with God, I really don't remember. I think I played with both of them from time to time, but they didn't want to play together. They just only wanted to play with only me. But I don't know why anyway. Like most of the time, I remember like if I could go get to the station where you could get a bucket and a shovel, um, the fastest, like if I was able to get into that line and get a bucket and a shovel, that was my favorite thing. Like I could just sit there and dig in the sand and be perfectly content. And the sand was all like nice and warm. I could put my hands in it. Um, that was really fun. Or sometimes I just sat there and watched the bugs and stuff like that and kind of I think the girl got bored of that because I didn't really want to play games that other kids wanted to play, and I didn't want to hang out with other kids or interact. So I think I spent a lot of my time digging in the sand and playing with bugs and stuff like that instead of like playing with other kids. Um, but then, uh, let's see, then I really was in first grade, and I had one friend, and she was weird like me. She openly stimmed, and would do this thing where she like, I can't even do it. Like, if I don't even know what she was doing, but she would like put one hand and make it go onto her chest. And her parents even were like, this is really weird. Is there a problem with her heart? But she liked the feeling of it. It made her feel comfortable, and she couldn't explain it really to adults. And they had her checked out, and it was just a weird stim that she did. I didn't find it particularly weird at all because I did my own weird things. But I was like, okay, well, she does this thing, whatever. Like, we like, you know, walking around in circles and not playing with the other kids and like looking at bugs or talking about weird things. So I just like, you know, I enjoyed hanging out with her because I wouldn't really say playing because where we play, we sometimes had like imaginary games that we would come up with and they were really weird. Um, but yeah, I remember that like a lot. Um, But then, okay, so that was first grade. She was there for second grade. And third grade, she had left and went to another school. And because she had left and gone to another school, I didn't have anyone to hang out with. I didn't have any friends. Everyone was into playing their games together. By that time, they were more well thought out, or it would be sports or something like that. And I was really uncoordinated. Never liked sports, never got picked first, always got picked last. Like typical kind of like it sounds like I'm saying one of those like nerdy stories or movies or whatever, but it's true. Like that was how things went for me. Like I was not coordinated, I was not good at sports. I didn't really get why people wanted to do sports. Like competition, certain competition I really like, but other competition I don't get most competition and I don't get people competing against each other or like I don't know. So that year in the third grade, I went back to digging in the sand and watching ants like bugs. I remember sitting on the wall and they had yard duties that if a kid was doing something bad, said something bad, or was treating another kid bad, the the punishment was that you get a timeout and you get to sit on the wall. And so I would sit on the wall a lot. I wasn't in trouble, and the yard duties would always come up to me and be like, "Well, why are you sitting on the wall? Um, you're not in trouble." And I would be like, "Yeah, I know. I just want to sit here because the wall was really nice and warm, and there was ants that crawled really nearby, so it was like a little place that I could lean and like look at the ants and have my own little internal world. I don't know. now now I'm hearing myself. I sound probably looked really weird, you know? Um I was always referred to as sensitive, quiet, shy, weird, gullible, slow, but also gifted. So kids would say you're weird and walk away from me. And like, I had no clue why they did that. Like, I still don't know, like, what was it about me that was so weird to them? Like, I don't get it. Uh, I would often have trouble knowing, when someone was joking or trying to trick me. I would not understand this. It would take me a while to like figure it out. And sometimes I didn't understand like, well, what was funny or what the joke was or why they were laughing, or I don't know if they were making fun of me or what was going on, but I did not understand anything. Like at that point in my life, that was like any time from like first grade on through, I don't know, almost the rest of schooling. I mean, I slowly caught up and understood certain things, but it would still take me a while. I'll explain a little bit later. I'll probably stop when I get all the way through school because we're already at 20 minutes. And then I'll do more of the adulthood related stuff in the next one. So I was a pretty good student as long as they gave detailed instructions, but if the instructions were too vague, I tended to not know what to do and mess it up. Um, I didn't know how to communicate my needs or explain that I needed more instruction. And furthermore, when I did this, like the teachers would be frustrated and angry that I needed to be explained it again or whatever. Um, and I do remember them asking me if I was stupid, which really hurt my feelings because I could understand. I could understand. I need explicit instructions for things. I don't know, man. Doesn't everyone get frustrated at like IKEA instructions and other instructions where it's like you're not saying the steps correctly at all? Like I want to write the instructions for these things because I would be very detailed about it. Like honestly, I'm kind of going off again. So I remember one time I hid this egg because I don't remember what we were even doing with it, but I know part of the thing was we had a hard boiled egg and we were supposed to take the shell off of it really gently so you could see the membrane on the inside. And like how many freaking eggs come apart like that all nice and neat? But like we had to crack it and then pull one side off really gently so you could see the membrane. And she did it so it seemed like all easy and stuff, but my egg broke in half. um Yeah. And so I hid it in my desk and she came by and saw that I had hid it and she was really angry about that. I remember that. And she was for the most part like a nice teacher that I liked, but she yelled at me and made me cry in front of the whole class, and that was in third grade. But I always did my work, I always did that. If another kid was going against the rules or people in general were going against the rules, I would tell them it was against the rules and I would always get weird looks. Like, I didn't know if they were aware though. Like, who would do something against the rules? That's my thought. Like, you're going to get in trouble. There's reasons for obeying the rules. Like, I was always like that. I was always like that. In fact, my friends and my other siblings would be like, okay, mom, like all the time because I was such a stickler for following rules. Um, I would often tell on other kids um, if they were doing things wrong or call people out for lying. And one time specifically, I was calling my friend out for lying. I think I said this in the other video, I'm not sure. But I was calling her out for lying because she said, I mean, she ended up being my friend later. We weren't friends, we just lived right next door to each other at the time that this happened. And it was like we were starting to become friends, or this is how people become friends, and how they're like, my dad is stronger than your dad. No, my dad is, like, that was a whole thing. And but then she started lying. She was like, my dad can pick this car up over his head, he's so strong. And I was like, if he could do that, he would be the strongest man in the world. And she was like, he is the strongest man in the world. And I was like, well, I have the Guinness Book of World Records. And if he's the strongest, your dad will be in it. So I went inside and got my book. This is me, you know, this is how Mariah plays with people, apparently. And I looked up strongest man in the world and I was like, it doesn't say it's your dad. And she punched me in the stomach. And so, yeah, that's how that went. And I went inside crying because that really freaking hurt. We did end up being friends later. We still are really good friends. We live nowhere near each other, but like, um, I get along with her really well, and she doesn't mind my weirdness now. Like, it's a long story. It's a long story. I may get into that sometime, but yeah, that was horrible. So I do have um, a lot of stims, although when I was a kid, I did not know that's what these things were. And I didn't know that other people didn't do things like that, or not like typically on a repetitive or regular basis. But I mean, you probably have noticed I'm a big hair toucher. I'll run my hands through my hair. I'll touch my hair and run my hands through it. I'll twirl it. I would run my hair across my lips, and I do have a lot of videos of me like I'm always doing stuff like that, and I did not know that that was weird. Um, I bite my nails. I would pick skin or scabs. I would scratch on my scalp to get the dead skin off of it, and I would scratch it until like it bled, and then there was scabs, and then I would scratch those off. Um, and another really big habit that I did was rubbing my feet together, and I did this especially like if I was getting cozy on a couch or I was going to sleep at night, I always rubbed my feet together. Always, always, always. It was something that I couldn't stop. Like I just rub the feet like this and I'll switch like so both of them get the same feeling. And I would just keep on doing that until I fell asleep. And we had gotten a kitten once and it was so bad like I would not be able to stop this habit if I could. It was just a stim that I just did every single night before I fell asleep. And I think someone broke me of the habit like later on in life because they didn't like the constant movement. And so I ended up just stopping for a while. But now I went back to doing it because it feels so good and it's so relaxing to do that. It's not as much of a compulsion as it was back then, but like I had to do it. And we got this kitten and the kitten would attack my feet and that would interrupt the feeling. Like I didn't mind the pressure of the cat. It was like the claws and teeth and all that. And I'm highly allergic to cats too. So anytime when they put claws or teeth on me, then my skin gets itchy too, like really, really itchy, and I hate that. So we had this fake lambskin piece of fake lambskin. I don't know, like that used to be around in like the 80s. This weird, like they had it for to lay babies on or something. I don't remember why we had it, but we had it. And I'm sorry if my nail cracking bothers anyone. I know some people don't like that sound. Um, we so I took that piece of fake lamb skin and I put it over my feet. And the way I put it on first was like the fluffy part up because I thought, well, her claws would go on to that. But no, since it was fake lamb skin, like she sunk right through the fluffy part and like she would still attack my feet. Like I could still feel claws. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna like flip it around because the fluffy part will be in between her, like the backing of it, and then the fluffy part, and then my foot. And then her claws just went into that like backing part and couldn't get to my feet. So that's how I fixed that problem. It was like I didn't mind the feeling of the cat jumping or the pressure of the cat at all. It was just the claws. But anyway, yeah, that's how I fixed that because I couldn't stop moving my feet. That I wasn't going to do that. That was straight out. Um, let's see. I used to chew on my cheeks, the inside of my. I mean, you can probably see where I do it. Still, like there's like little lines where I bite my cheeks, and I would do it so bad when I was young that it would start to bleed, like that. And I don't think my parents ever knew about that either, because it's like inside your mouth. How could they? Um, Later on in life, I started pulling hairs out, like trichotillomania. I don't know if a lot of people know about that, but I would. It's a it's a really stimming thing. So I run my hands through my hair a lot, and if I feel one that feels different, um, I pull that one out and I roll them into balls. No, this is really weird. Okay, I'm sorry. Roll them into balls I have one right here. I like rolling it around in my finger like that. Feels really nice. But also, like I have different shades in my hair. I always have. I've always had this really light blonde streak right here in my hair when I was younger. And I am going white now. This part's like completely white. So I've been using henna and other natural stuff in my hair because I don't like the chemical stuff. Like for a lot of reasons. But anyway, like I I've always had different shades. Like you could see this one's like more brightly red, and then I have darker brown sections. That's just how my hair is naturally. It just does that. So I would line them up like by by shade and color. Like so it would be like a little hair rainbow kind of. I don't know how to say that. But yeah, like it's a nice feeling. It's a little tiny thing that I've always done. I didn't know stems were a thing. I didn't know why I did it. I felt so ashamed and weird that I do these things, but I just do. It's just something that I've always done. So in fifth grade, I remember our friend group kind of got a little bit bigger. It might have gotten bigger in fourth, fifth, no, fifth grade, it got a little bit bigger. And then sixth grade, it got a lot bigger. And then I think I'm mixing the years up too, because third, fourth, fifth was Mr. Devine's class, and that was awesome. I think there was two people we hung out with, maybe. And then sixth grade, I was still in elementary school. That's how California was. Sixth grade was still elementary school. And then seventh grade is what the next story. I'm gonna have to fix that in here because it's off. Um, but the group of kids were all the weird kids. Okay, so and it wasn't boys; it was just all the weird girls. So we had this group of people, and looking back on, like, we were always together like throughout, even all the way through high school. If no one moved, like, I don't know, I don't think anyone did. I think a couple of people went to different schools from time to time, but I think we all ended up at the same school until the very end. um, which is a different story for another time. But anyway, like, we were obviously, like, I know a lot of us weren't neurotypical. That's how I'm going to put that. I didn't know the word for that. I just knew that we didn't fit in with the other kids. We were different. And some of them have diagnoses. So that's how that goes. Like, we just all fit in with each other, and we all liked doing weird things and, repeating lines from movies, and we liked weird movies like Holy Grail and, stuff like that. Like, very typical nerdy Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and like the other Monty Pythons, Parrot Sketch not included, like all of that type of stuff. Um, and they once all got together and handcrafted a weird award for me because I was the weirdest one. So they made me a weird award, which I was actually really honored. Like, but from my friends, that was something really cool, and I really treasured it. Like, in the moment, I was like, "Oh wow!" And I folded it up and I put it in my pocket, and then I forgot it was there, and it went through the wash and ruined it. So I don't have it to hold up, but because I destroyed it. But I still remembered it and kept it in my heart because that's just, I don't know. I don't know. Um, as I got older, it became clear that I didn't relate or know how to relate to any other peers. Like, we were outsiders. That's what I call it. We were in the nerd herd. We were the outsiders. It was actually called the nerd herd. We were all academically, like, we were all very academic. We were all not into sports. We were more into like music. So if there was an art class, it would be like music class. We didn't have a lot of like theater or anything like that. And I do remember this too. Like, a lot of us would mimic or imitate other people's speech patterns. So if someone had a slight accent or a way that they said something, we would kind of mimic that. And it wasn't even like it was like consciously done, although maybe some of them did, but I would just fall into that, like, this is how we speak now. I don't know. I don't know. Again, this is just, these are just things. This is how my childhood was. So, okay. So when we got to junior high school, and this would happen, this would be seventh grade. We called it junior high, not middle school. I don't know if anyone's like listening that's like, well, whatever. That wasn't okay. Anyway, I remember sitting at a table. I remember the exact position that the table was in and everything. This memory is so clear in my mind. I was sitting there, and I was the second person in from the end of the table. And this older girl walked up, and she was like, "Do you guys have any change or money? I need some change or money." And like that was her. That was her accent. Sorry, really was. There was a lot of Valley girls, you know. I lived in California at the time. That's how it was. Southern California. So I was like, I didn't even think about it. I just was like, not for you, because I did have money in my pockets, but it was for something specific and I couldn't give it away. And I said, not for you. And the moment her face changed, I knew I had said something wrong. And she was like, I'm going to kick your ass. And I was terrified and confused, like terrified. I had no clue why this was happening, but I was like, oh, like she got really mad and stormed off. She was like, I'm going to get my friends. And I was like, oh God, like, where do we hide? Where do we hide? Where do we go? And I went into the girls' bathroom, and then I was like, well, this is a stupid idea because she's a girl too. Like, maybe we should just go stand by one of the yard duties, like really close to one of the yard duties, and then they can't do anything. So that's how I got out of that. Like, people would throw food at us, though. I remember we were picked on really, really, really hard. Um, to the point where in the mornings I would start to get really, really, really bad stomach aches before school. And I just really didn't want to go because it was really difficult. Um, you know, I got bullied really hard, and I think it was just because we were so different, and I was so different. Like, I don't know. I don't think I looked like a I don't particularly think I looked weird, but I started to think that I was really ugly and unattractive, and that's why they hated me. Like that, I remember that was one of my thoughts. Like, oh, I must be like really unattractive. Um, but because of this constant bullying and picking on me, and it being so hard for me to communicate with anyone outside of my small little friend group, that was all weird like me. Like that's why it was comfortable to talk to them. We didn't talk about normal stuff. Um, it I My mom pulled me out of school for like half the year, and I homeschooled, and that was so much better. I remember that being like, but and I was given the books, and like you have to do chapters whatever through whatever, and I would do my work, and then we would turn it into this homeschooling program place that was near the adult learning school. and and it wasn't a college either. It was like an adult learning school. I don't know how to say that. Like, I think that's what they called it, the adult learning school. Yeah. Weird memory, because I that's really interesting to me. It was not a college. I think it was like so they people could get their GEDs and stuff if they had dropped out. Anyway, I was pulled out for half a year, and then I went back to school, and I remember there was so many rumors about me. It was like that I almost died, that I had an iron lung, all these crazy weird rumors. And suddenly I was interesting to the other kids. And so they stopped bullying me for a tiny bit. And when the bullying started back up, I remember it was just like a couple of groups of people that would do it. It wasn't everyone. It wasn't as bad as it was before. Um, because I had gained some kind of fame or notoriety from being gone away from school, and everyone had thought that I had got some weird illness and almost died. Like it was kind of crazy. Like I still don't know why they thought that, and I'm like, no, I wasn't sick. I was just being homeschooled. Like I didn't want to say the reason why because I didn't want to look even weirder, you know. Um, I excelled in certain classes I felt very interesting. And this is going to be very, very stereotypical. So just like, this is my truth though. This is who I am. I loved math and science and art. Those three things I loved, but I was horrible in some of my other classes. I remember English being particularly hard, not because I couldn't grasp the language, although like the way spelling is doesn't make logical sense to me. It never will. Like I'm teaching my son how to read right now, and it's like, yes, the rules are all weird. Like it's almost always this way, but sometimes this way. And it's like, well, what it doesn't make sense. Okay, it doesn't make sense. But I was really good at reading. I could read really fast. Okay, really, really fast. When I caught on to it, I was good. Still crap at spelling. I mix letters up. I may be dyslexic. I mix letters up. I add E's where they shouldn't be. And now, I mean, throughout my 20s and 30s, I knew I put extra E's. So now I like delete E's and don't put enough. Like, I will not put E's in words. It's really weird. Like, I don't know why I do that, but you know, spell check is your friend, whatever, whatever, you know? Um, and a lot of the stories that we read were really, really, really freaking boring, really boring. Some of them were interesting. I remember the Where the Red Fern Grows. That book was interesting to me because it was like all about a dog, and that book made me cry so hard. Like I was hyperventilating. See, this is where the sensitive thing comes in. I was hyperventilating over it, and my mom, she was like, stop reading, don't read that book. And I was like, I have to for school. And so like, you know, I had to finish it, but I couldn't even read the words because my eyes were all blurry from being all teared up, and I had to wait. Other books I could not like I couldn't tell you any fine details of. I know we read Huckleberry Finn. I thought that book was not interesting at all whatsoever. And so my way to deal with this is I could read really well and I could skim through the book really well. I could pick different words out. So when they're asking me, like, if there's questions about this chapter or that chapter, I could scan through the structure of each paragraph and know about what it was about and then scan through to the important part and answer the question. No problem. So that's how I dealt with that. Another book that I see, I remember the books that I liked because I remember them really well. It was called Night by L. Wessel, and that book really got me into like studying people and psychology because I really didn't understand racism, bigotry, anything like that. It was like, why are people like that? That doesn't make sense to me. We're all people. I didn't even know that racism was a thing until I got to, I think it was late junior high or high school when it was like, this is a thing. People don't like each other because of like the hair color or the color of their skin or their sexuality or what. Like, that was, I don't understand that. Still don't, never will. I know it's taught, you know, I know that's how some people pick up on it, but I don't know why. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense to me. Why? Why? I don't know. I don't get it. And I don't think anyone can explain it to me because it's been explained. Well, you know, people are just jealous or this or that. There's like lots of little explanations. It's taught, it's set like superiority or this or that. It's just that I don't get how those things exist. Like, why does that exist though? Why do people feel that way to begin with? Why do people feel superior to someone else or jealous? It's not, it doesn't make sense to me, that part of it. Like, I don't get it. Yeah. So anyway, um, and around this time I found out that my friends kind of knew me a little bit better than I knew myself. But people always say that. I always have said I know myself really well. I know myself really well. I have a very internal, really knowledge and awareness of myself. And I always have. Like, I'm very in touch with that. But my outward appearance or stuff like that, like, I don't know how I come across to other people. I'm very much not aware of that. I don't have awareness of that. So they had made a comment that I don't like hugging and I don't like giving hugs. I don't like being touched. And that was true, very true. But to me, I was shocked to be, I never thought of it really, like, I never thought of it as a thing. I never knew that people like put value on that. Like, that was my time that I became aware of that. And it was at the end of ninth grade. Yeah. Because we were leaving. We were going out of junior high and into high school the next year, and everyone was hugging goodbye and crying because they might go to see me, the other high school, and I was going to Royal. I'm probably saying too much information about myself. But I'm exposed. Um, but anyway, yeah. So they were all hugging. They were like, "We know you don't like to hug, Mariah, so it's okay." And I was like, I mean, I like to hug, like, because I wanted to fit in, right? Uh, like, it didn't even, I bet you it didn't even sound sincere, but I knew that I felt really uncomfortable and I was trying to do it anyway, type of thing. Okay, so this leads on to later on in high school, and I believe it was 10th, 11th, I think it was 11th grade. I could be wrong, but I think it was 11th grade. I had taken an elective in psychology because, of course, as I'm getting older, people watching, people studying of people, why people do things the way that they do is all becoming exceedingly interesting to me. I want to know why people's brains work the way they do and why mine works the way it does, which I'm 47 now, so you think I would have kind of lined up the dots ahead of, like, well before this, but no, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. Went to psychology class, and one of the things that we were doing, it was an exercise in showing how we communicate warmth and everything else, and there was like a hug contest. So they had this one of the students, and they blindfolded him, and they were going to rate your hug. Um, and I was like, ooh, I'm going to be really good at this. I'm going to be really good at this. I'm going to get the best hug. And I was rated the lowest in all the hugs. I think they did 3 different people, and they did not choose me as a good hug when rating the different hugs. I was not chosen. I was like one of the last, the bottom of the bucket. And I was really confused and sad and frustrated about this because I was like, what did I do wrong? How am I hugging wrong? You just put your arms around someone, and it's comforting. Was I doing it too long? Was I doing it too short? And like, that was the whole point of the exercise. And they were saying like people like certain things and this and that, and I still didn't understand. I was like, how did I get this wrong? Like, how did I get hugging wrong? How do I get hugging wrong? Seriously. So it became like an obsession to me, and I was like, I am going to be a hugging person. I love to give hugs, blah 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 blah, right? Like, hug hug hug, I'm going to hug everyone and get really good at it, and ignore my discomfort with it, which exposure therapy to a certain point, right? Because I would just push try to push the feeling out of my head and ignore it, basically, is what it was, masking. Um, and I know that, like, by the end of my 20s, I was like, okay, I'm done with this being a hugging person, really. I mean, I still lied to myself a little bit about that, but it was really weird because, I'm just I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not. I mean, my family's gonna feel so bad about this too, but the only people I feel really comfortable hugging is my husband and my kids. And touch, to me in general, I don't like touch unless I'm very intimate and close with those people, right? So it always has bothered me, and I don't admit it all the time. That's part of masking. I don't really admit these things, but it makes me uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable to hug anyone other than my husband and my kids. Um, so yeah. I absolutely loved math and science. Again, those were my things, right? So, and math is like a game, and numbers, they don't lie. They're very honest. They are what they are, right? In science, the reason why I like science, because, like, you're always learning something new. You learn mechanisms, hidden mechanisms, like you can go deeper with the knowledge. It's just always been like a subject that I really, really enjoyed because you can really get into it and, like, learn everything that there is about whatever it is that you're. I mean, they don't have all the answers. Okay, science has its blind spots or things that they haven't figured out, but for the most part, you can get really detailed into knowing why until you hit that brick wall, right? And then it's like your mind is like, why is there that wall there? Why can't we answer anything past that? I mean, that's how I think. That's how I am. Anyway, so in particular in algebra class when I was in high school, I would finish all my work in class and all my homework really, really, really fast. And then I would sit there and draw. And that was kind of distracting to the kids around me. So they had moved me to the back of the class. Number one, because they knew, you know, Mariah's really good at math anyway, it doesn't matter. So they moved me to the back of the class, and she would always check, like, to make sure I had my work, my my classwork and my homework done. She didn't always bother me for having all of my homework done in class before I left because, she knew I would bring it back the next day. Like, I always turned in my homework. And so I would sit there and draw, and I would draw people's faces, like photorealistic people's faces. And I got really into eyes, which is weird because I have a problem with eye contact. I haven't even gotten to that part yet because it's like later in my life, and I think I'm going to cut it short before that. But anyway, um, in that I got a little bit of special treatment, and I think the other kids were frustrated because, like, she gets to draw, but I always had my work done. So that's why. And then in science, I remember in biology specifically, I don't remember the name of the teacher, but he was really cool. We had these large tanks that had boa constrictors in them. And sometimes they would be covered up because he would be feeding them the rabbits. And some of the girls got really squeamish over that. Like, it's me. I don't understand it. That's fascinating to me. Can I peek underneath? And he would be like, no, because you could get freaked out. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. Like, I don't get to see a snake eat a rabbit now. Um, but I remember it was me and two other kids that sat right in the middle of the class, second row back. And we always got all of our work turned in, got good grades on the tests and everything. And on the final, he called the three of us up, and he was, before anyone started the test, he was like, you three over here. And there was this little side room where they had different chemicals and everything stored, microscopes, like stuff like that. It was like a work slash storage room. And he had us count pennies and weigh them. I'm still not really sure what and why he wanted them counted and weighed. Um, because I don't think that was answered, but instead of doing the test, we did that, which I found kind of boring. And I didn't say anything about it, but I would have much rather preferred taking the test than doing that. And all the other kids were like, why aren't they taking the test? Wait a minute, this is not fair. And the teacher was like, they know the answers. They're going to ace this. So they don't need to take the test. They don't need to take it. Which, I mean, I get that, but it's kind of like special treatment. I mean, if you knew that we knew the work, I get that it's kind of uh, a waste of time to have us do it, I guess. But like weighing pennies, like counting out pennies and weighing them, I don't know. I don't know. I That was boring to me. So he's probably not alive anymore, but um, I'm sorry, I was bored by that. Okay, hold on, where are we at? Okay. One of my English teachers, I think she just didn't like me. I don't know. I got C's in that class. I turned in all my work. I freaking read the books they told me to read, or read them like enough to answer the questions and stuff. I knew I was getting the answers right. But I still got C's in that class. And she said it had something to do with class participation, which, like, I don't know. I don't feel that that's a right paradigm to, like, judge your ability to, like, read and understand English. Is that, well, I mean, I guess it's like social skills of English, but it wasn't, I don't know. I just think that was wrong still. Like, whatever. Um, I was a little bit better at socializing in high school than I was at any other point in my life. And one of the other classes that I really, really, really liked, I'm getting ahead of myself, was marching band. And marching band, it was like, marching band's a very structured, organized activity, right? Like, you're learning music, you're marching, you have to be in formation. Um, it's very sit and wait and do exactly what you're told, and I love that. Okay, that was like the easiest for me. It was so much fun. um and oh, you know what, there was some okay, I was in drumline. Okay, I enjoyed it so much. But again, there's another social aspect to that too, right? Because you're standing there, like, break times and stuff like that, your little group is standing there talking. And I tried really hard to, like, put in my comments or whatever, or participate in conversation, but I wasn't that good. I remember not being that good at it still. And they would often say, like, Mariah, you talk too much. And my first thought was, I'm barely saying anything at all. Like, I'm really quiet. Why would they say that? It took me a couple minutes to realize they were being sarcastic, and I'm not on the boat again. And so, like, yeah, delayed reaction. And I just chuckled and was like, oh, haha, like, that's me. I'm really quiet. Yep. Um, but like, what, like, I just enjoyed the precision that we needed, the structure. And it was really interesting because that year we were playing music in 7/8, and we were marching. We were going back and forth from four playing in 4/4 and marching in 4/4 to playing in 7/8 and marching still in 4/4, which are two different time signatures. If you don't know much about music, that's crazy. Like, that's something that, like, I very enjoyed, that challenge of trying to, like, split my brain and be able to do two different things at once that seemingly, and I can still do it to this day. I have not unlearned it. um 7/8 is like dun 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 dun, like that. And 4/4, of course, is the, it's, I don't know if you can hear the difference or But anyway, that was always really interesting to me how that worked. Um, and it was just really, really fun. Um, and we took sweeps that year too, which means that we won all of the competitions that we went to. And I really enjoyed that, although like I was really quiet and I didn't really put much in. I remember that. So that's the end of like my childhood part of it, because next we kind of get more into like when I learned that I wasn't making eye contact with people, and that was when I was 17. So I'm going to stop the video here because we're at over an hour in now, and the other part of it's going to take a really long time too. So I think I might split this into like 3 different sections, and the the first 2 sections are all my history. Of course, you just watched like part of it, right? You watched like my childhood part of it, and then the next part of it is going to be um, my, when I was becoming an adult, and on to the now. And then I might have my traits, like go over my traits in a separate video, or I might just do an extra long video for the next one. I don't know. But I'm going to record them all right now. Whatever I do, I'm going to do them right now. So when I upload these, they'll all be up there, and you don't have to watch them all in a row if you don't want or whatever, but they're going to be all there. So you'll be able to click on whatever link on the screen here to get to the next one. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, you can comment anything you like. Tell me if you relate to any of these things, because I know I'm weird. I know even my things are not stereotypical. Like some parts of me are very stereotypical. Why I feel like um, I fit the criteria for autism. And again, yeah, I am having an assessment soon, so we'll see what happens. But like, wowza. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Okay.